final horn sounded inside the noisy arena at Lake Placid, freezing time for an entire generation of sports fans. A room full of young college kids had just done what everyone called completely impossible, shocking the mighty Soviet machine on frozen ground. Yet the legendary miracle of 1980 was not born from magic or good fortune. It was forged months earlier in dark, quiet rinks through brutal physical punishment and broken spirits. Months before the Winter Games began, in Norway, late 1979, the American squad played a flat, careless exhibition match against a local club team. Coach Herb Brooks did not raise his voice after the final whistle sounded. Instead, he ordered the building staff to turn the main lights off and sent his skaters right back onto the dark ice. The cold air grew heavy as his whistle blew again and again. Lines were crossed until legs burned like hot fire. Skaters fell to their knees, gasping for cold air and throwing up in trash cans beside the bench while their sharp boots sliced through thin frost. They ran the agonizing skating drills known as Herbies over and over in the shadows. Sweat froze on their red jerseys, but the relentless whistle never stopped. That night, every player shared one deep feeling: intense hate for their coach. Before they ever stepped onto the national stage, these young men were bitter rivals from opposite sides of the country. Kids from Boston hated kids from Minnesota, carrying old college hockey rivalries into every single practice session. Brooks saw those deep personal divisions and made a deliberate choice. He did not try to bring them together as friends. He made himself the ultimate villain, giving them one shared target for all their anger. The team locker room became a tense island where no player ever felt safe. Brooks maintained a cold distance, refusing to offer praise, warm handshakes, or comforting words to anyone on the team roster. He watched practices from high above in the empty stands, writing cold notes on a clipboard while his assistant coach carried out the hard orders on the ice. To the players, he was a stern, distant taskmaster. Day after day, the young hockey squad endured endless sprints across the frozen rink. They skated from red line to blue line, back and forth until the marked ice lines blurred into continuous solid colors. The psychological weight of the training camp grew heavier with every brutal session. Every single drill was timed down to the second, forcing players to fight through blinding fatigue or risk starting the exhausting cycle all over again. Bodies slowly began to fail under the constant physical strain of the training schedule. Blisters turned to open wounds inside leather skates, and torn muscles were wrapped in thick layers of heavy tape before early morning practices. No player dared to visit the medical trainer or complain about severe pain, knowing any sign of physical weakness could cost them their spot on the final team. Fear of being cut kept them moving forward. Across the ocean, a completely different kind of athletic power dominated international competition. The Soviet hockey machine was built from years of strict military discipline and relentless daily training. They were grown men who played together year after year, destroying international opponents with surgical speed and incredible physical strength. To the rest of the world, beating them was an unimaginable dream that could never come true. The Red Team did not simply win games. They systematically broke the spirit of every team they faced. Their passing was lightning fast and totally flawless. Their hits were punishing, and their overall stamina never faded during the final period of play. They operated like a single body with one relentless goal: total dominance over every opponent. Against such overwhelming power, a group of American college students looked like easy targets. As the Winter Games drew closer, the immense weight of the moment began to settle inside the young American locker room. The players realized they were stepping onto the ice against seasoned world champions who had never known failure on the international stage. The gap in experience was huge. Doubts crept into quiet moments late at night, but every morning brought only more whistle blows, heavy sweat, and endless skating.
Just weeks before arriving at Lake Placid, the young squad faced the foreign giant in an exhibition match at Madison Square Garden. The contest quickly turned into a total nightmare. The foreign champions cruised to an easy victory, skating circles around the young Americans and making them look like helpless beginners. That harsh loss exposed every flaw in the team and shattered what little confidence they had left. That humiliating defeat could have easily broken the squad forever, but Herb Brooks welcomed the bitter result. He knew the blowout revealed the exact distance between talent and actual victory.
Instead of softening his demanding approach, he used the loss to push his young roster even harder. He reminded them that pure talent would never survive against a machine. Only superior endurance and complete unity could alter their destiny. The squad returned to the ice facility with absolute focus, pushing through another round of grueling Herbies drills. They skated until their lungs burned like fire and their minds went completely blank, leaving every drop of energy on the rink. The constant physical pain stripped away their individual pride until only survival instinct remained. They ceased to be individual college stars and began moving as one united machine. By the time the young roster arrived at the Olympics, the atmosphere surrounding the Games was thick with intense international pressure. Cold mountain winds swept through the quiet town as fans and news reporters gathered from around the world. The young team stepped out into the bright spotlight, carrying the quiet hopes of a nation that desperately needed a victory during dark, uncertain economic and political times. Inside the athlete housing, a silent transformation took place among the young players. The old hatred between rival college programs had completely melted away, replaced by a deep brotherhood forged through months of shared suffering. They still held strong resentment toward their demanding coach, but that shared anger had bound them together tighter than any speech ever could. They had become a single, unbreakable unit. The long months of cold isolation and physical torment had built an invisible mental armor around the locker room. They were no longer intimidated by fatigue, body hits, or superior skill on the opposing bench. They knew they had survived the most brutal training regimen ever created in sports, and no opponent could ever push them harder than their own coach had already pushed them during those dark winter nights. The day of the championship matchup finally arrived, and the energy inside the building was electrifying. When the puck dropped onto the ice, the young team did not back down or play scared. They matched the incredible pace of the Soviet attack, throwing heavy body checks and skating with relentless speed that caught the champions completely off guard. The intensity of the opening minutes shocked everyone watching around the globe. Instead of wearing down in the second period as national experts had predicted, the young team held their ground with fierce determination. Every drop of sweat shed during those brutal Herbies began to pay off when their legs were tested to the absolute limit. They matched the opposition stride for stride, proving that their physical conditioning was equal to the most feared team in international hockey history. A visible wave of panic rippled through the opposing bench as the high-stakes game remained locked in a tight battle heading into the third period. In a rare move of pure desperation, the foreign head coach benched his world-famous starting goaltender after a minor mistake. It was a clear sign that the unbreakable machine was finally showing real cracks under the constant pressure of a relentless young team. With time ticking away in the final period, team captain Mike Eruzione found an open lane and fired a quick shot past the backup goaltender straight into the net. The entire arena erupted into wild cheers as the underdog squad took an unbelievable 4-3 lead. The historic goal set off loud celebrations in the stands, but 10 excruciating minutes still remained on the clock. Those final 10 minutes became a pure test of survival as the red jerseys launched an all-out attack to protect their legacy. Wave after wave of offensive pressure crashed against the American defense, but the young players refused to yield an inch. They blocked heavy shots with their bodies, scrambled for loose pucks, and skated through deep, lung-burning fatigue that would have broken any lesser-trained squad. The final seconds ticked down on the giant scoreboard as thousands of fans counted along in unison, creating a deafening wall of sound. As the final horn echoed through the building, the players threw their sticks high into the air and leaped over the boards in wild joy. The impossible dream had come true, creating an unforgettable moment that instantly captured the heart of an entire world. While his young players celebrated wildly on the frozen ice, Coach Herb Brooks walked quietly down the back hallway toward the locker room alone. He sat down by himself in a dim corridor, far away from the bright lights, flashing cameras, and roaring crowds. His harsh methods, cold attitude, and punishing training plan had been fully vindicated. He had pushed those young men to the absolute brink, and they had responded with eternal glory. The deep scars of that brutal training camp would stay with the players for the rest of their lives. Decades later, they would still vividly remember the dark rink in Norway, the bitter cold, and the endless whistle echoing off empty bleachers. Yet those agonizing memories were also the unbreakable bond that kept them connected as brothers forever, tied together by a journey that defined who they were. That miraculous defeat forever altered the landscape of modern sports, proving that pure heart, calculated preparation, and relentless unity could overcome any superior force. The dominant red machine was never seen as invincible again, while the miracle on ice stood as a permanent symbol of sacrifice and human willpower. The balance of athletic history had been dramatically rewritten in a single afternoon. In the end, what took place in 1980 was not a stroke of random luck or an unexplainable miracle. It was the direct result of calculated suffering, psychological strategy, and unwavering collective will. Behind every historic triumph lies an untold story of extreme sacrifice hidden far away from the public eye, where ordinary human beings choose to endure unbearable pain to earn their place in legend.